Hello, welcome back to Black Book Stacks. I am your host, Hoshonda Sanders. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all of the new subscribers who've responded so well, especially to Cast and my review of it, which I've included in the link for that video. And yeah, I'm here to talk about Grown. First of all, let us just take a moment for the epic nature of this beautiful cover. Like, how astounding is this? So I inhaled this book in a couple days. It is by Tiffany D. Jackson, who is the author of Monday Is Not Coming, and another book that I did not read. Allegedly, Monday's Not Coming, and Let Me Hear a Rhyme. So I have not read those. So this is my first familiarity with Tiffany D. Jackson on the page. And this is a story about Enchanted Jones, who is 17 and wants to sing. And what I gathered from the author letter for ARCs. This one comes out September 15th, 2020, so please do pre-order. The other books also deal with a similar case, which is the case of R.Kelly. And so Enchanted's story is inspired essentially by the case of R.Kelly, and those of you who are not familiar with like surviving R.Kelly, this is just a trigger warning for sexual assault, for abuse, for exploitation, for women being drugged, black women not being believed, black girls and women being abused without being believed. And that is essentially what the book is about. Enchanted Jones is 17. She's a singer. She loves Disney movies. She takes care of her little sisters and brother, and I love this cover so much. Okay, I'm gonna stop showing it to you so I can tell you about the book. So we start the book knowing that she believes in fairy tales and that she lives a less than ideal life in that regard. She resonates the most with The Little Mermaid, which I happen to love, and recently just watched. Like, I got Disney Plus to watch Hamilton, and like everybody else who I guess didn't pay $3,000 to go see it on Broadway or whatever. And then I was like, oh, I can watch The Little Mermaid again. And trust me, like, I understand all of the problematic feminist undertones, because in high school we 100% went over Disney archetypes, problematic symbolism, which actually sort of ruined Disney for me for a little bit, if I'm being honest, and Pixar too, as much as I love Pixar, with some really important exceptions. But anyway, the way that Tiffany Jackson begins to frame for us just how easy it is for us to believe in fairy tales and fantasies in that framework, while also grounding us in the realities of Enchanted's life. She's a swimmer on the swim team. She's part of this African-American social club, Will and Willow. It's just like middle class, upper middle class black folks. Her parents are working class, middle class folks. Her father is in a union job, and that is striking, and that creates its own stress, and so there's this issue of money. And then Enchanted goes to an audition, and she meets Corey Fields, and Corey Fields is the rock star who basically begins to groom her and make her feel like she could be a hit. He does creepy things like take videos of her on YouTube and then leaks them to the public without her knowledge. And her parents become okay with it because he introduces them to famous people. He, shows them another woman a little bit older than Enchanted Jessica, who assures them that if she goes on tour with them, that she'll be fine. But then, of course, it turns out that she's not, and she's walking into a nightmare. And so I won't ruin it by like giving you plot by plot, or, you know, saying too much more about the book. But what I will say is that, you know, I think it's one thing to see and hear and read not only the stories of survivors of sexual assault or sexual assault at the hands of R.Kelly, but it's another to be reminded of just how many parts of our communities, as I'm speaking just as a Black woman, often will talk about fast-tailed girls or girls being too grown before their time, and putting all of the blame on the victims or the survivors of these predators who are in our communities, that people are so willing to cape for and so willing to just say, you know, of course, you know, you would say this about that person whose music I love, that person whose celebrity I am so attached to, that I feel like I know them better than I know people in my family. And so I think it's a page turner because it's really well written. So Grown is definitely worth pre-ordering and picking up in its own right, just because it is a cinematic tale. It's really absorbing. And, you know, regardless of the reason why the author is able to write that trauma in such a vivid way, it is immensely compelling a read. It's absorbing, and you really just can't put it down once you pick it up. But it is really sad and jarring. You know, I read it, and as transfixed as I was by the narrative, as absorbed as I was in it, I was also really sad about you know, the fact that, you know, there's a line in the book about princesses saving themselves, going back to this Disney analogy. And, you know, Black girls, Black women, we always have to save ourselves. You know, it's part of what I guess I've always found a little bit comforting in the escapism of Disney, right? Is that there would be this other world where it's possible for us to not have to do everything for ourselves, to not have to protect ourselves, to not have to defend ourselves relentlessly against the various violations and predators in the world who would make us feel like we're not worthy of that protection, which is why we have to do it for ourselves, right? So yeah, I think Grown is a beautiful book. I think that, you know, again, there's just a content warning for the explicit details that may be triggering for some people. But beyond that, I think it's brilliant. I think it's great, and needed, unfortunately, still, for us to remind ourselves that Black girls are Black girls. They're not grown women. But more than that, whether they're girls or they're women, no amount of money should insulate anyone from being held accountable for their actions. And when there is a pattern of abuse, and a pattern of exploitation that goes on for years and years without anyone calling you to account, it's not just the predator who is to blame. It is all of the adults around them who turn and look the other way. You know, silence is complicity, you know. So, and it's not just the vocal fans on Instagram or on social media who are like, shut up, he's amazing. I'm still gonna play all his songs. okay. But yeah, there's this whole ecosystem of accountable people who let these horrific crimes continue to go unpunished. And of course, because of misogynoir, you know, the specific hatred of black women and girls, combined with rape culture, combined with having, you know, someone who does not respect women in the White House, you have a perfect storm of people who are ready to always lay the blame at the foot of someone other than themselves. So I think Grown is a mirror. I think it's deeply compelling. I think it'll be interesting to see how others respond to it. It is about 372 pages. This is one of my favorite covers of the year. It's just beautiful. I love that she has short hair. You know, it takes a really confident seeming person to pull off that cut. But yeah, I think the cover is stunning, the book is stunning, and I hope that you'll check it out. And if you do, let me know what you think. And that is what I have about Grown. Until next time, I'll see you when I have another book recommendation. Till then, take care.